Alright, now, I'm going to talk about my opinion, what I've been through, so we all get opinions.
Thanks very much, the Attorney General.
Thank you, Prime.
To violence with little or no warning and little or no planning.
A little bit about what they're talking about.
Can be almost spontaneous
Terrorists.
or purely reactive. Third, a research
putting in
into the number
thoughts.
of minors embracing violent extremism. In the recent cases, the oldest perpetrator was 21 and the youngest was 14. Extremist ideologies, conspiracies, misinformation are flourishing in the online ecosystem, and young Australians
Exactly, everybody.
are particularly vulnerable.
My story can't even come out just yet because
Finally,
of what they're talking about.
first drivers of extremism.
In fact, extremism, when it comes to this, in my case, which I'll talk about a little bit more in a minute, but I'll just chuck this out while they're speaking, is that I'm saying things, and if it gets copied, and I'm posting it, but I've only got a few fans, and that's all you need. And you don't need to watch the whole video on YouTube to get a view. So as long as it's up, they can copy it and then speak it their own way or post it in another YouTube site, no, somewhere else that I wouldn't even know. Call it something else and everything, and I wouldn't even know, right? And so when it comes to that kind of spread, they can use your information. So they could be using my information. I don't even know. I'm going, what's going on here? I'm blocked. I get no views. Like, check out my views. Like, I'll go into it. Let's go back just into this one alone, right? And you'll see that pretty much everything's private. Barely no views, right? And I've videoed this plenty of times before, right? But all this information could be used, right? And you know what else they can do out there? They can say, oh, we got this information from this person, and so it was them. And they'll use mine, I don't even know. Then they can say I'm part of their group, and I'm not. Now, if you haven't got no proof of that, couldn't that happen to people out there? That's how people get set up, everybody. And they rock up, right? And if you've got no proof, you're screwed. And obviously, in a lot of these cases, I'm right. I'm a hermit. I've got a lot of videos. I've been showing what I've been doing, speaking about things, and I'll be happy to talk about such an incident if it turned up to me. Right? As I talk about a lot of things that's going on out there, and I can help and I can also relate to them. Right? When it comes to these groups, I'd like to go up to them and try to connect to them and go, what are you doing this for? And that's how, and I understand your point, and I'd talk to them. Right? And I always think of the best positive outcome for everybody. Right? And I use religion as well. I like to use certain stories. I'm not the follower of these stories, but I do use knowledge, and I'm spiritual. I do believe in energy and something out there that's bigger than us, a force that we don't understand yet, right? And so anyway, I thought I'd say my say about what I'm hearing today, because there's such problems that I can't even do that. And you believe you can get on YouTube or TikTok. I've gotten on TikTok and said a few important things and talked about some stuff and shown some stuff. And I find it just as more important than a lot of things out there. I guess I'm different than everybody. Why it wouldn't get views or anything? It's like everything's blocked or everything's ignored. Right? Or it's a particular group. I can explain that it's just a particular group or a little area is looking. And then if they're twisting things, is what they do. That's what people do to religion. They try to use religion to what they're doing, right? And go on the test and try to twist things. And so you got to be careful of that. And that's when it turns into terrorism, everybody. As you, they don't work with people. They do things behind the scenes, and they deceive, and that's terrorism, right? For their agenda.
Sustained exposure to a particular.
And it's pretty bad. It's why you got to do these kind of things, because they can get into the system, like overseas, like the Taliban and all that, and with Iraq, and take over the systems, right? And then overnight, you just hear about the army and they're in, and you go, what the hell? And you're trying to leave it, and that's what history's shown before, how far terrorism can take over. You think it's just terrorism, next minute it's the country now, right? So you got to be careful, and you all want to vacate. And that's how I feel that's coming here in Australia, my opinion of what I've been trying to put out. And when I did to the public in my area, every area is different. You don't class a country as an area. There's lots of corrupted towns and bad towns and good towns, right? That I've been attacked, right? Everything I've done has been attacked. So spiritual people say, well, that's my spirit's attacking you or whatever. But I've had outcomes of attack, and all I see is righteous progress. All I'm trying to do is righteous things, and why would you want to attack such a things, right? But the devil always attacks and deceives and talks about things, and you wouldn't believe anyone's bad until they do bad things. But the devil will try to make things will be bad, or they are bad when they're not.
Right now, he says it's vastly improved.
Yeah, that I just had the dog walk past.
And the services in the unit.
Call that like a.
or
We'll say that's Horace.
Now,
I call Stella every now and then. Look up what the meaning of it
and
is.
personal narratives.
But keep listening just for a second, then I'll stop it there.
The alleged perpetrators appear to be motivated by extreme religious beliefs.
And extremists come because
Nationalist and
we end up
racist
having too much false narratives
These
and
factors make
information
atheism
misled and
more
not
difficult.
let out, and
The threats are becoming
so we
harder
all
to
get in our
predict
own little
and
bubbles
identify.
sometimes.
The drivers of radicalisation, grievance, extremism are growing and interacting in ways we've not seen before, creating a security climate that's very different to the one that existed when we last raised the threat level. The challenge is exacerbated by the internet and social media, the primary
What I was just talking
platform
about?
for radicalisation, and the use of encryption by every single one of our investigative subjects. It's important to put this in context, though. The threats I'm describing are significant but not insurmountable. Probable does not mean inevitable. Australians should be aware but not afraid. If you believe a person you know is going down a dark extremist path, please talk to someone or call the National Security Hotline on 1800 123 400.
What happens if I call that? I'll just pause that there. What happens if I call that? Well, I'm not even going to bother everybody because I've already called the police about all sorts of issues, and so far you don't get no response, and things only gotten worse when I did report, so I just gave up, because since I've given up and gone hermit, there's been less to report about, and you just find out knowledge yourself and watch and learn is the best way when it comes to certain things like that.
ASIO and our law enforcement partners are working hard to detect these terrorist threats and are well practiced at defeating them. Since 2014, together we have successfully disrupted 24 attacks. The organisation I lead will continue to do the job that we've been doing for the last 75 years to protect Australia and Australians from threats to their security. Thank you. Thanks.
And once again, in my case, good luck with that, because you should see my story, right? And I'm just an Australian trying to live and try to be right from the start of that story that was recorded too, and further back, but I'm talking about my recorded story. I've decided to make what you call a life diary. Recorded, right? In all the most important points as you do in life diaries. And when I went out, when I did this and stuff like that, it was recorded, right? So if anything went down in these areas, which mostly did, it was recorded. Or it was spoken about that was missed, like a diary, and witnesses put in and stuff like that, and evidence to go check up if you need to, as you would do truthfully in a diary that will be true, right? But anyway, the system makes that harder over time. When it comes to diaries, you might want to go check up things and then find out you can't, because certain things only last a certain time. And that's why we record as much as we can, and to try to keep that information to yourself when it comes to diaries. But that only works if you're in a country that allows people to speak their freedom and put out things when they need to. But in my case, I've tried that in certain areas, in certain cases, and they've proven to us here in Australia that that's not true when it comes to speaking your fair, right words and be actually right with science and everything, and yet they will still say that you're wrong. And that's sad here in Australia. That's all I've got to say about that. I'm no terrorist, I'm no nothing like that, everybody. I'm just a dude that makes films and clips and posts things up, mention it to even police that, you know, I do post on YouTube, doesn't mean it's going to happen. I post things on YouTube if it's something to talk about with what I do, right? If it needs to be heard and known, I will talk about things privately, and if it needs to be seen with evidence, I will try to post evidence up with it. Anyway, have a good one, everybody, and I'll just finish up with a little bit more of these guys doing what they do best, as we hear all the time, as they say. Now we all know words cheap. What's after that?
Terrorism threat level that was in place in Australia for more than 8 years. This return to a national terrorism threat level of probable was informed by ASIO's expert assessment of our current security environment.
What makes a bigger threat? An ego terrorism means their points, and their points are wrong, and they just believe they're right, and they're coming in, they're trying to use spiritual and all this kind of stuff, as we believe the Taliban have done and all that kind of stuff. Is that terrorism? Or if the group's been attacked, like we've seen in certain movies, like say in Gaza, it was Gaza people attacking Israel later on, and they're just saying what goes around comes around. At least we're not as bad as you. We might be bad, but you did this. And Gazans decided to attack Israel and wipe them out a little bit because some Israelis come over and raped them. You know what I mean? Things like that. What do you reckon counts as a terror? Who's the terrorist? See, if you've had things done onto you and then you react, as far as I'm concerned, and you're in the right and you've got evidence of that, you're not a terrorist, right? You're attacking like any country's attacking anybody. It's just you're a group that's not known, so you might be classed as a terrorist, as you have no power or say in the world when it comes to the actions you do, and you're not backed up, so you'll be classed as a terrorist real quick, that I've seen. So you let me know, really, what should be a terrorist, and do you do all your research, and have they got the proof of it, and can show the people in the public, if they want to go look, of why they say they're a terrorist. So if you can't say and show all the proof in the public and go, this is why, right? So it's pretty easy on the internet, isn't it? Put it all up, upload all one page. You go to all one page, you can put it all up for you. This is why we believe they're a terrorist, and here's some documents of what we've seen, and we know it's proof. You need more, blah blah blah, but here's our signed proof of what we're saying is true. We've seen it, and if it's not, you can come at us, right? This is why we're attacking them. Right? This is why we say they're terrorists. Right? This is why they're attacking us. Anyway, if you don't do all that, you might find it's propaganda. People trying to get over people. People always, when it comes to bad guys and trying to come up with propaganda, they'll use anything to gain power. So if you hear people talk about things and don't want to show much, but they want to have power, which gain more power over certain things, right, and their decisions, then it could be a high probability of a Hitler type person, right? Or other cases like what happened overseas. So have a good one, everybody, and we'll just play a little bit more.
The Director General has outlined the dynamics that have raised the temperature of the security environment, but he has also said that these threats are not insurmountable. As the Director General and the Prime Minister have said, it does not mean that there is any imminent threat of terrorist attack in Australia. It means that ASIO's experts...
There's a terrorist around. That means you need to do negotiations. Try to tap into, create negotiations then to spy. You can spy, then you can negotiate. You're doing both. Bit of both, bit of security, but negotiation helps. If you just spy, then you could be nearly as bad as them, as you didn't want to help fix the problem. You just retaliated when the problem occurred. You see? Which is what I've been talking about in a few stories about what happened to me. If you just retaliate when the problem occurred, you won't get the story till later, and you might feel like an idiot. Right? And that's happened in history. Where they invaded Iraq and they thought they had nukes. Remember that, everybody? And they didn't. And then they come up with another excuse. Oh, it's all right. We found this. But it doesn't look good. And you might not get lucky like Iraq. How they got lucky with the Iraqis, isn't it?
Many of those we've assessed do have awful ideologies, but are unlikely to go to violence. In this environment, it's important that we retest those assessments we've made to make sure we're paying attention to the people we know about. Of course, it's the people I don't know about that I worry the most.
That's what I do in my study. Pay attention to the ones you know that are bad.
Community leaders, politicians,
it's a start.
Media,
make sure you do that.
Watch your actions. I've said that. The Prime Minister has said that. Be very careful about that, because there's a direct correlation between inflamed language, inflamed tension and violence. Something we all know. The federal government with the states...
There's always signs. I've been talking about and teaching about. what people can do peacefully to show signs of what might happen, right? And the bad guys do the same thing. They go up there and do their raving on speeches and stuff that we see overseas.
Greens accuse the Labor Party of being complicit in genocide. When it comes to
You find out they're wrong or right is to really research what they're talking about. Then you'll get your answer for real when you do that real research.
That is infecting all of the community. What's your message as Prime Minister to political leaders and to families, parents, teachers, community at large?
My message to political leaders is that words matter. And it is important.
Anyway, I'm going to leave it there.
People engage in a way
I've got things to do, and I've got my point across. And if you want to listen to the rest of this, just jump on ABC, and you will find an interview about terrorist alert. And have a good one, everybody.